Very excited to talk about Archer season 13. It's amazing to think that this show is still going after all this time. How does it feel for you coming into season 13 of this show?
It's a great and surreal because I don't think that any of us expected the show to have this long of a life. Not that we didn't believe it was a brilliant show that deserves to be on longer than The Simpsons, but I just think, it's such a unique show and it's so edgy and it's so unconventional that I think it's just been eyes and a delight that people have connected with it as much as they have. And now, maybe we're kind of all feeling, like we really know the show well and we're, we've settled into it. And so there's news stories that we can tell because we have our hands around this world and these characters. So, I definitely think we all think we can go another, 13 years at least. But it's always a blast to make the show and never gets old.
I'm hoping for as much time as that, if not more.
Yeah.
So I was a big fan of the Coma seasons, but I know that they were kind of a mixed reception amongst the fan base, and therefore the return to more episodic missions has been very welcomed. How does that feel for you, making that transition back towards the original formula of the show in comparison to the Coma seasons?
The fun thing about the Coma seasons was that they were like an opportunity to step out of the world that I think, we all knew intimately. And also, for Adam Reed, he was writing, every episode of the show. So it was the way for him to really push himself creatively and stay excited and stay connected to the material. But it's hard, the show is I know that people feel like it's a spy show, but really it's a workplace comedy. And so, whether we were, chasing bad guys or doing international espionage or becoming, global cocaine dealers, really the comedy is in the interpersonal relationships between this group of I don't know, ill-fitted but well-suited. I don't know, these people who kind of like should and shouldn't be together. It's about those relationships, you know what I mean? So I loved the Coma seasons because I felt like, we got to do all kinds of cool stuff, in our kind of noir season. I got to sing, and be the kind of like a sultry jazz singer. And, Judy got to be a country singer, and we got to do so many cool things. But we're happy to be back, and we're also happy to go back to shooting each other in the foot.
Was there any Coma season in particular you enjoyed the most?
That's a really good question. The space season was really fun because I'm just a big sci-fi nerd. And then, like our LA Noir season was fun because because I got to sing. I remember Matt was like, "So can you sing?" Matt Thompson, our executive producer, and I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, well, we think that Lana's going to be like a singer this season." I was like, "Great, okay, whenever you guys." And then I went in to record the stuff, and at the end, Matt's like, "Oh, you can actually sing." It's like, "I told you I could sing, bro." He's like, "Yeah, we had somebody lined up to sing all this stuff for you. We thought you were just like the way that actors say that they could like ride horseback on their resume, but they've never been on a horse. We just figured you were making it up." So that was a really fun season for me personally.
I just finished rewatching it the other day, and it's still one of my favorite Coma seasons as well.
That was the biggest stretch, I think, for a lot of audience members, right? Because, I'm just thinking of the Island season, because then Lucky got to be a bird. But Pam was, a man, and all the characters kind of, morphed into different people. But to me, it was the darkest season, and so maybe the most interesting. Maybe not as comedy driven as other seasons, but it had this otherworldly kind of LA Confidential-esque simmering heat that I thought was really, fun.
I couldn't agree more with you on that one. And then coming into season 13, we get to see a really interesting new dynamic between everybody as they sort of clamor for Mallory's what was Mallory's position in the agency. How did that feel for you, getting to explore that new dynamic with everybody in this season?
I mean, The Office, all of our characters have always been in competition with each other, and in one way or another. There's always been kind of like, like like I was saying, I think like the most intense kind of subterfuge and espionage goes on within the office, not, outside of it. So we all know this kind of combative dynamic, but it's definitely heightened this year. It's a lot more intense, and I think a lot more fun. I mean, I am a sci-fi nerd, but I'm also an action nerd, so I'm really excited because I feel like there's going to be a lot of big, fun, cool set pieces this season, and a lot of red herrings and, big kind of like false peak surprises and stuff like that. Going to be really fun. And the pilot episode was just fantastic. So the first episode of the season, I mean, so yeah, I mean, we're back on our bullshit, but turned up to 11.
Well, that's exactly what fans of the show want to hear.
Yeah.
What can we expect then from yours and Archer's dynamic? Because obviously right before he went into the coma, there was the whole possibility of you guys getting back together, and now you're still kind of figuring out how to co-parent with AJ and slowly possibly revealing his being a father to her in the show. What can we expect from that coming into season 13?
I think the main thing to remember is that Archer is incapable of being a normal functioning adult. And I think that Lana is aware of that. And quite honestly, I'm confident that Archer is aware of that. So I wouldn't expect any kind of like normative familial stuff to go on between those three. But Lana and Archer do love each other. I mean, that's very clear. They care about each other very deeply. Archer has many times in the past put his actual life on the line to save Lana's, so there is a real deep love there. But I don't think that they anticipate or would ever really be able to maintain any kind of like normal, stable adult relationship with each other. He's too much of a ding dong, and quite honestly, she's too driven. I don't really think she would want a kind of a normalized relationship either. She's at her, she's got a kid, but at her heart, she's a really driven, really ambitious person. And she's the kind of mom, I mean, sadly, in a lot of ways, she's starting to mirror Mallory. I mean, she's an absentee mom, and she loves her kid very much, but I think she really feels like happy mom, happy kid, which means like if she's not fulfilled professionally, she's not going to be able to be a very good parent. And I think she's trying to model a kind of a driven, ambitious, like high performing model for her kid. So the idea that they're going to kind of ride off happily into the sunset, I think, is probably not the cards.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You never know.
Sad, but you never know. You're right. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
So speaking of Mallory, this did also mark the first season without Jessica, sadly. What was it like for you coming into this season with her absence?
I mean, she was just a monumental force, both, as a character on the show and also in all of our lives. She was an incredible role model and an extraordinary friend. And, this sounds a little bit like pabulum, but, I still feel her presence all the time. She was just this incredible light. We didn't get to spend a lot of time together as a cast in the real world. And so whenever we did, it was really just wonderful and intense and bonding. And, I've said this before, but Mallory was really the sun that the rest of the planets of the Archer cast revolved around. And she's just incredibly missed. But her effect, not just on, our show, but on the entertainment business in general, she was one of a kind, and she was an incredible actor and a singular comedian that we all really looked up to, and I hope we'll continue to try to emulate and honor, with the work that we do on the show.
Well, I think you've already done a phenomenal job with it so far. The season 12 finale brought me to tears for a solid hour, and the way that you guys are handling her absence in 13's been really great to see. So I know you've got to run. So Aisha, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out when it comes on. And I wish you luck on the rest of Criminal Minds, by the way.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good rest
It's
of
a
your week.
pleasure talking with you. Have a good one. Thank you.